Why is it important to find that hope, that glimmer of hope?
I think it's important because we're living this human experience in a very profound time that is globally different than anything that we've known before. At the core, we're still human beings. And how do we stay connected? I'm an eternal optimist, even if I go through a depressive state. So I'm about like, how do we all feel great? Because I've gotten this opportunity through following my passion and purpose and the things that I learned studying and training to be an actor, the rejections, 100 rejections to get one role. So all those no's are the gift that got me to the yeses. So in entrepreneurship, like I'm made for entrepreneurship. I know no's. I know that somebody doesn't like me for how tall you are, how that. There's just nothing you can do about that, but you keep going. So what is that thing? That thing for you, but I'm thinking about the core of that, trusting our intellect, taking away and washing away these societal layers and your passion. You were doing this already, your passion for making sure that we had access to information and capital. Me going, with Blackbird, I just feel this thing and I'm on this path and I don't know where it's going, but I'm going to give it a try. So you were obviously searching and see, but there's something even in that relates to the work that both of us do in different ways.
I think we both just realized, you can tell me if this is right, but we just kind of realized that there's no use in getting anywhere great alone.
Yeah, that's it.
We find, because we were both so curious, we then find that information and we bring it back. This is another thing, and tell me if you can relate to this. Whenever I feel stress or anxiety, what really helps me is to interview people or learn from people and then share the information with others. Like with the pandemic, I just started interviewing as many people as possible and sharing the information because it made me feel safer and calmer. Yeah, do you relate to that?
I do, 100%. And then that curiosity brings you to do things that are outside. Because, we talk, I am an introvert. Yeah. I don't feel like you're very introverted.
Oh, I am.
But we all have our introvert-extrovert thing. But I would have never gone to a conference. And design started me going to conferences. And every time you step outside of your comfort zone into something that's curious about, that you're curious about or you want to learn, you get that experience. And then for me, the same thing. I want to share that.
Yes.
Even being an interior designer, like, wait, more of us don't know this work. I want to share that. How do we do that? And then why am I being called to do something?
Yes.
And am I going to answer it, or am I going to kind of just be scared and stay in the comfort place?
You taught me that only 3% of interior designers, which is different than interior decorators. Let's talk about the difference. Yeah. Interior designers are Black.
And that number's slightly growing, but it kind of keeps going up and back. Yeah.
I didn't know that whatsoever.
Isn't that scary?
There are, what does an interior designer do, first of all?
So interior designers are trained to look at all aspects of the interiors of a home, the adjacencies, the space planning, how you walk through the space, where you might sit, what you see when you look out a window. So you're thinking holistically, like, how am I experiencing space? If you go to a hotel that doesn't have good wayfinding, you're like, I'm lost. I don't know where to go.
Good wayfinding.
Wayfinding. So it's like, how do you find your way through a space?
Ooh.
So they call
this
it
is very fancy. I feel very fancy right now.
I know, it does something.
But it's great. So someone probably listening to this or watching this would be great to be an interior designer, but hasn't really figured out what to call it. Or what was it that started telling you that you could do this?
Doing my own homes and having this opportunity to have our first home. And I was moving furniture all the time. My husband was like, every time he'd come home, and even when I was pregnant, I was like moving a couch. I was like, it was this curiosity to know what if we sat in our living room this way or that way? What if we sat this way? What would change? What if we put chamois yellow on our walls? So I just used it as my canvas and my workshop. Wood shedding. So if you're a musician, you wood shed. Okay. So it's basically a period where you're trained and you do all this stuff, and then you go deep in to find your voice.
You find it.
So I was finding my interior design voice through physical space, experiment. But I've drawn since I was 12 years old. Yeah. When I was 12 years old, I was trying to fix our kitchen. Mostly because I was the oldest child and I was the one that had to do the dishes. So I was trying to fit a dishwasher in.
Yes.
So let's be real. I had a
So you've been solutions driven from day one.
I was solution driven. I presented my plan. I was an entrepreneur. I presented my plan to my mother on blue line packed paper, and she looked at me and she laughed. She was like, "Yeah, we ain't got no money.
Yeah,
you are not.
Good for you.
We're not about to.
Yeah.
What we're not about to do is build that. So go wash some dishes.
Yes.
But all of that. Fast forward, in our home, my husband would come home and I'd move the furniture. He's like, "Is there going to be a day when I don't come?" And then people started asking me, "I love what you do in your room. You painted this such a bold color. I never would have done that. Yeah. Will you help me with yours?" And I didn't feel like I'm qualified to help other people because I'm still figuring this out, making tons of mistakes. Like I did a tile job that I was experimenting. I can see it came back to you right then. It was I was experimenting and I wanted this like spa-like, but I wanted some inspiration, so I put just the wrong colors together. Yeah. We had to pull all that tile out and redo it, and then it worked. But I don't want to do that with a client. So I went to UCLA's Interior Design, Interior Arc ID program, took a class. Like, let me just see what this is. It just kept sparking that. And then it took 3 years, but I went through their entire program.
Oh, that's so cool.
And graduated with distinction. I was like, oh, I have an aptitude for this. And
that's so cool.
So that led me along that whole path.
Did those 3 years go by fast or slow for you?
They went fast. And my kids were in elementary school at the same time. So it was a really rapid period. But it was the work, the all-nighters. I hadn't done all-nighters since undergrad. Okay. So it's a postgraduate program. And I was not ready. But I loved it. So if you give me a piece of paper and a solution and a problem to solve with a floor plan, I can draw for hours and hours and not want to get up, not want to eat. Mm-hmm. What are the things, anybody listening right now, what are the things that you do that you have to be pulled away from? I had to be pulled away from drawing, design, painting, sketching. And
that's a great way to think about it, because so many people are looking for their what and their why. They're looking for a direction. So many people that I meet, I don't know what type of business I would start, or what type of business should I work at that is more fulfilling to me. Mm-hmm. And that's such a great way to say. I say, your obsession is going to fuel your success in a lot of ways. Because the people we think about, LeBron, Beyonce, the tech giants of the world, they are obsessed. And I find myself obsessed with things that I really care about.
What are you obsessed with?
I'm obsessed with, usually it's different topics. More recently, I've gotten really down the wormhole about content marketing so that I can learn and do it and then teach other people how to do it, because I want to help create 1,000 millionaires. And so a lot of that's going to have to come from us being independent and finding our way and generating revenue and building. And so a lot of people don't have money for ads. And so how do you do content marketing that can become viral? Yes, but just can be a sustainable way of bringing new people into the fold every single day. And I get obsessed with that. Before, obviously, it was Backstage Capital and helping to level the playing ground for underestimated founders. And that was an obsession that I went to sleep thinking about, woke up thinking about, dreamed about.
That's the thing.
That's the thing.
That's the only thing.
So if that's a really great exercise, is to think about it. And some people might say, well, mine's kind of silly, or mine's kind of a hobby or something. There are so many ways to find your path with something that can be considered a hobby. Most podcasts, for instance, are about hobbies or about interests. I didn't know that. Yeah, if we think about what people talk about, most of them are just this interest to spark or something that kind of accentuates something else that they're doing. But I love hearing these stories of someone who just got obsessed with learning how to make. There's a woman who's makes a certain type of soap with beeswax, right? And it just became this thing. And what are you doing? And then that's multi-million-dollar company now.
We need it, yeah. Or fixing a sponge. And the sponge is now worth $100 million. Exactly. What? It's a sponge.
Yeah. So it's good stuff happens now. I don't think you should be obsessed with people. You should be obsessed with a subject. That's just my opinion, because people may take that the wrong. Some people may take it the wrong way. Oh, I'm obsessed. Be obsessed with
my goodness,
it
can be dangerous.
Your knowledge, gathering and your research and your upskilling.
That's an important distinction. Yeah. Obsessed in what you want, and then what do you want to do in the world? Like what if you affect one person, if you're the only thing you want, like teachers are the geniuses, right?
Yeah.
My sister-in-law is a second grade teacher. She's currently like on a sabbatical, but she loves her students. She loves the second grade is her grade. Yeah. And she, every year, 25 young people go through her class and they remember her. Actually, our social media content person was her student and still remembers her. And they hadn't seen, just randomly happened to be her teacher. She ends up being like best friends with my daughter, but she remembers her because she's so good at it and passionate. And she's also super funny. She should be a comedian. Oh, but she should do what she's doing.
Well, I like people who kind of find their way, like people who become comedians after they've been in another position, because you never know, she could be.
And she could, because she came to Blackbird for a round table and we were all like getting emotional and having like connection. And every time she said something, wow, that natural funny, like we were talking about with Jamila.
Yeah, that's always cool too, because you don't have to do the same thing your whole life. It's not like you find your way and then you're just there and that's all you're doing. It's like you like, I know that I work on a few things, but I had the foundation of Backstage for 8-9 years. Then I branched off into a recruiting company, and now I'm going to work on I'm working on a stealth CPG product, and it's just, and then the events, and Your First Million Live. It's all these things, but I couldn't have started that way because I wouldn't have done any of them well. Right. So I definitely did have to have a foundation, and then I try to stay aligned with different interests. But it's so fun to think, what I do, and I think a lot of people do this, is like, I'm 43, and I think anytime I'm a little bit worried about where I am in life, I'll go and look up Wikipedia where Ellen was at a certain time, or where Mark Cuban was at a certain time, or where, this person was at a certain time. And I say in my book, you shouldn't compare your chapter 2 to somebody else's chapter 10, but it does help me because you notice a lot of people, like Ellen. I think Ellen's show started when she was a year older than I am today. Oh, wow. I think that's the right. Damon John started, at 40, I believe, on Shark Tank, and has been there for how many years. And when you think about like Mark Cuban, he's a generation older than I am, so 64, 63. And he is living his darn life. Right. And I'm thinking, I can't wait to be 60, because I'm going to feel that way. I'm going to feel, it's so there's a lot to that. There's a lot of hope, I think, that comes from that. Just thinking of it that way. You can always choose to think in a negative way.
I hope this has been helpful to you, and I'll see you in the next video.